In a world.
Mate, hold up. We said we're done with the serious intros.
Who said?
Well, we did.
I don't remember that.
Well, I said it, and you're me, so, you know.
Well, I don't care. In a world.
Hey, I told you. We're keeping it light.
You do it on your own then.
Well, technically, I already am. So, anyway. Fuck yeah. Pure wild flight. Get it down ya. How good? Visit nzaerosports.com.
I get to do the next one.
Well, obviously, you moron. We both do.
I was 19, broke, unemployed, and sold my girlfriend's canopy for drug money. So, I thought I better sew her a new one. What a sentence, and what a story. This describes the humble yet outrageous beginnings of NZ Aerosports, the home of Icarus canopies, in the words of our founder himself. From getting a paratrooper toy from his mom, watching parachutes at the DZ as a 6-year-old, jumping off the wharf with a parachute made from bed sheets, doing his first jump at 16, sewing his first canopy on a borrowed machine at 19, and starting to sell parachutes out of a garage in 1986, Paul Gyro Martin had an undying love for the sky. Our company started with one man with the wildest of spirits and a true blue sky dream, a renegade. In the time that Gyro created and ran the Icarus Canopies brand until he passed away in 2017, he pushed everything he had to its limits. We miss him, and we always will. Gyro is the next generation of NZ Aerosports. It honors our founder, of course, because it was the name we all knew him by, but Gyro the rebrand also marks the start of a new chapter, our next jump. Gyro is the space between sound and silence, art and science, chaos and calm. Gyro is a state of epic tranquility that transcends understanding. That moment, in the door, in free fall, mid-swoop, where nothing but the present exists. A perfect balance of euphoria and thrill. Gyro captures our passion for flying and our commitment to designing break-the-fucking-rules canopies that deliver pilots pure, wild flight.
Coming straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot. Coming straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
Ready, set, go. All right, we are back in the can once again for another edition of Lunatic Fringe Into the Void. I am the fucking pilot once again, and on the other line, I've got somebody else to talk to us about a whole bunch of different extreme sports. He is a real renaissance man when it comes to that. So tell us, who the fuck are you?
How you doing, man? My name's Ellis Danho Bourbonnais, and I guess I am an extreme sports athlete. Mainly focusing in skydiving and mixed martial arts and now climbing.
Mixed martial arts, climbing, and skydiving, man, that is definitely a full basket right there. Which one came first?
Well, the first extreme sport that came was surfing, and that's what got me out into Hawaii, which you could definitely say led right into mixed martial arts. And the first thing that I tackled where I really gave up a lot of stuff and sacrificed a lot was for mixed martial arts.
All right, so you ended up, where did you start your surfing career?
I started surfing. The first time I surfed was in the Gulf of Texas, or the Gulf of Mexico, sorry.
Okay.
Surfing with mom and dad out there. And then it led to California and then to Hawaii. Wow,
so you were chasing some big stuff. Was it, what was your forte in surfing? Was it the little stuff, or were you out riding giants?
Well, I mean, it first was just getting out in the waves, and that was on a longboard for a couple months. You know, I was in trouble when I was a kid in Texas, and had to kind of flee the area, and that just kind of threw me into the mix in Hawaii. And
Wow.
I pretty much all my surfing started out there in Hawaii, seriously.
Well, and that's some pretty intense surfing, though. I mean, Hawaii's no joke. That's not exactly a great place to learn, is it?
No, not at all. I recommend trying to learn to surf in Hawaii. It can be very difficult.
I can imagine. Well, between the waves and I guess, and I might be talking out of my ass because I don't know surfing that well, but I would imagine Hawaii gets pretty territorial, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it's super territorial, especially if you're white, Caucasian, or as they call it, haole out there.
Right.
But at the same time, the Hawaiian spirit is definitely still alive with aloha, and it can chew you up and spit you out. But it's also a place that, if you allow yourself to learn, you can learn a lot of respect and care for like family and friends and stuff like that.
Oh, I'd imagine. Well, now, so how did all this transition into going from surfing, which is kind of this solo do-it-yourself sport, to stepping in the octagon and beating the shit out of each other?
I had been, after getting in trouble and getting out of jail when I was a kid and ending up in Hawaii, I felt like I was owed this, big party or whatever. And so I raged for a long time, kind of drinking and doing recreational stuff. And then I just kind of had come to like almost the end of my rope, watching friends travel and accomplish really cool things, or what I thought was really cool, surfing in different locations. I kind of just started yearning for that. And a couple of my friends were sober and mixed martial artists. And so I started kind of following them around. And Hawaii is also a big, breeding ground for mixed martial arts. Everyone loves fighting out there and stuff like that. So I got into to mixed martial arts that way. A friend of mine, I moved in with him. I gave up drugs, women, salt, pepper, everything that you could imagine like that, and just started focusing on mixed martial arts 24/7.
Holy shit, man! You dove in head first.
I did.
I mean, well, in the training, if you're going to be any good at mixed martial arts, you better be a badass. I mean, you'd have to have that kind of dedication, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean the training was intense. It was all day long, and then eating for lunch, and then all night long. Definitely one of the hardest things I've ever felt on the body next to climbing. But yeah, amazing start for me to get into, like dedicating myself to extreme sports in general, for sure.
Sure. Now, how long were you doing something, or how long were you doing the mixed martial arts, and did you have some proper, title fights and stuff like this, or?
I never actually fought like for any big titles or anything like that. I think I did it for a total of maybe 2 years. And I started off in a small gym with my buddy, went to jiu-jitsu competition that was statewide, really well known and respected. I ended up getting smashed in the gi discipline, or branch of the competition. And then when I went to the no-gi part of the competition, I got third place. And was able to score points on someone, win a match, and that really sparked me to dive headfirst into a no holds barred like pancreation tournament, where I fought a jiu-jitsu tournament and like a full striking with kind of like a catcher's mask type of tournament side by side. So like I went from the jiu-jitsu match into the striking match, and then won that match, and then back into the striking match, and ended up winning that, and also suffering my first like broken foot.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man! I mean,
until they were handing me the trophy.
That's pretty hardcore, man. You definitely had the drive for it. I mean, in 2 years, I mean, you the way you said it, you made it sound like it wasn't that long, but for mere mortals like me, 2 years of getting my ass handed to me is a long time. I don't think I'd be able to handle that, but my bark is a lot bigger than my bite. So you do the mixed martial arts for a couple of years, and you learn what serious hard work and hardcore training is all about. You give up all these things that got you in a shitload of trouble when you were younger, and then you transition into skydiving. Is that what comes next?
Yeah, I was off of my first cage fight, which happened in Maui. It was in the BJ Penn cage, and there was a bunch of people there, the tap out crew.
Wow.
I won that fight, got my nose broken in like the first 15 minutes, so it was really riding a big high after that. and came back, was at a kind of like an extreme sports party, met some friends there, like some girls actually, surprisingly enough, some cute girls from the skydiving place. I started talking to them. They told me, if I was into mixed martial arts, that I would love skydiving. It being something kind of like, everyone says on their bucket list, I had to go out and try, and I did that the next day and instantly fell in love.
Wow, so you made your first jump in Hawaii.
Yep.
It's not
Out
some
at Pacific.
pretty damn good scenery to start out with.
Oh, it was amazing. And I had a few people jump out with me. One of the girls, like I was saying, was there. She was a Packer, and she jumped out of the plane with me. So, I mean, a lot of people will, do their first tandem, maybe have like camera, but I had like 3 people, and we were all linked up doing a round, for my first jump. So I remember as soon as I jumped out of the plane, was under canopy and like landing, I was like, it's already over. I want to do this again. I want to do this every single day for the rest of my life.
Nice.
I remember to this day.
It's pretty fucking funny because the way you tell that story is exactly the way a lot of girls tell their story about their first jump. They went out, they got swamped by a bunch of guys that went out and made a jump with them because they were all trying to get at them. But it was you. These chicks came and scoped you from an MMA fight and were working you, weren't they?
I mean, I don't want to. Yeah, it was somewhat like that.
You're a handsome man.
It was somewhat like that, and I was very flattered, and it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. It was very amazing,
especially when it started out that way. All right, well, so you make the first jump. You got hot chicks chasing you out of the airplane. I don't know who the fuck wouldn't fall in love with that shit. So you decide you're going to be a skydiver. Does it start right there? I mean, how long before you were jumping on your own?
I didn't have any money at the time. I was working in a shrimp truck, still, just doing the cage fighting thing. I had one more fight on my schedule. I had said I would go do this fight in the Blaisdell, which is like one of the biggest arenas in Hawaii. I went, fought that. I ended up winning that fight in a TKO decision in 1 minute and 30 seconds. Like, wow. Slipped the guy, suplexed him on top of his head, and mounted him and ground and pounded him. And the ref broke it up. After that, I never fought again. I immediately just dedicated myself to AFF, completed doing like 1 jump almost a week or 2 jumps a week. I got up to about 80 jumps and wanted to travel and got my passport and went to Barbados. So I didn't jump at all for like a couple months, realized you had to have like visas and stuff like that. That was my first international travel. I was like just out there with some Rasta guys I had met. Awesome. I ended up coming back to the United States and getting a job up in Skydive, Oregon as a packer. And that was like my first real skydiving job, packing up there for the summer.
Wow. So you just after that 1 jump, you decided fuck it with the MMA. I mean, it sounds to me like with that, you could have gone places if you had decided to stick with that.
It definitely was. The guy I beat in my first fight ended up going to win the state title. There was other guys that I was beating up were top contenders and stuff. But as you were saying, it's super grueling. And with skydiving, you get like the same adrenaline rush and less broken noses, feet, and my nose. I got broken in my first fight. The guy flying kneed me in the cage, and the one I ended up winning. So I don't breathe the same since that fight.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, with skydiving, you can break bones now and then, but for the most part, you usually walk away from a year's worth of jumping with nothing more than a few sore shoulders and such. But you don't get in a cage and not come out in pain. You're gonna get fucked up if you step in that cage. So I applaud the decision, but was it a tough decision? I mean, did you have to put a lot of thought into it, or was it just fuck it, I'm gonna go be a skydiver?
I was like, man, I just want to jump out of a plane, grab my knees, and front flip until they hit the ground. Awesome. I didn't want to do anything else with that. It was the easiest decision I ever made. Awesome. Best decision.
And it's nice when it happens like that, isn't it? When there's no real thinking about it, you're just like, fuck this is what I'm doing. It's so nice. It's very freeing.
It is. I agree.
So
completely freeing. You're
now in Oregon and you're packing parachutes, which in itself is a hell of a hard job, but you're jumping out of airplanes. Where do we go from there?
My AFF instructor, rest in peace. His name's Ash White. Who's no longer with us. He really, when I first started jumping, he unloaded me. Of course, this was still back in the day, like 11, 12 years ago almost. And he had burned a bunch of DVDs of like Radix and a bunch of like base jumping footage of him in Switzerland and traveling Europe. So from the day that I started jumping, I instantly, was introduced to base jumping, and that was my goal. So going to Oregon, I just wanted to get 100 jumps because that was what they were gonna, allow you to do to start talking to a base jumper, basically.
Wow.
And that's what I wanted to do, is get the 100 jumps and do my first base jumps, and just kind of travel the world doing that, something that didn't cost a lot of money, I thought in my mind, and it would just really be conducive to my nomadic lifestyle, thus far.
Well, and was it a chase for the adrenaline, or was it just you found this passion in that particular part of it? Because I mean, a lot of people think that people that are jumping out of airplanes or base jumping just want this never-ending buzz, but it doesn't turn out to be that way for a lot of us. It just turns out to be fucking amazing and fun and community and all this. So for you, what was the biggest draw?
Well, the community was definitely there, because without that, I wouldn't have had the drive. I wouldn't have felt so welcome, and all that. And everyone that's always been involved in any of my skydiving or base jumping accomplishments are just some of the most amazing people. But I was actually, you could say, like clickbaited into it, a term that's kind of these days. I can remember watching Miles D and Mike Swanson and those guys doing those base jumps off the Cadillac, and they had the killer music going to it, and they just looked like they were having so much fun. And then them, in Norway, it just looked so freeing.
For sure.
So the adrenaline rush, and then I think also just like the liberty that, like, fuck you to the world. I can do whatever I want. I can jump off a cliff. You know what I mean, and live my life however I want to.
And it is
deal.
It's a big proper fuck you for sure. Well, and I had somebody else that was on the podcast mention one of the coolest things too about our sport is it's still so young overall that you're able to see these old DVDs, or in my case, old VHS tapes, and next thing you know, you blink and you find yourself on a plane with, what was your hero a couple of years ago, and next thing you know, you're out doing a fucking 4-way with the Flyboys. So back in my day, but it's got to be the same for you, because I mean, I know you went on to go pretty damn hard in the world of base jumping, and you ended up jumping with all these guys that you'd been watching back in the beginning. What was that like?
I mean, it was and still is amazing to see base jumping, because I when I started in Hawaii, it was like Miles Dasher, Mike Swanson, Jimmy Hall, and all these dudes like doing some of the first, even Patrick DeGayon inventing like the wingsuit out there and stuff like that. And like you said, meeting those guys was amazing and stuff. And I think also like the skydiving aspect, because now I don't really even base jump that much anymore. I have my rig and stuff like that, but I've mainly just been skydiving these days and really haven't even thought about base jumping. So it's hard to say with that.
It seems to be with a lot of the guys that I've talked to that maybe they never stop base jumping, but they spend a pretty limited amount of time on that razor's edge. I had a couple of guys, Nick Scalabrino and Matt Munting, I'm sure you know them both, that have been doing the hardcore terrain flying, but they've crossed checked all the boxes when it comes to that, and now their focus is still in the wingsuits and still a lot of base jumping, but now they're pulling away from the terrain to do other stuff. And I see that happening with a lot of the hardcore base jumpers. I think you finally just get to that point where you go, all right, well, let's see what's next. I don't know what comes next when you're literally, clipping bushes with your feet as you're flying past.
Yeah, I mean, like I never got that heavy into the terrain like those guys have been doing and stuff, and Swanee and everyone else, But the point that you did bring up that really resonates with me is something that Dukes has always said as well. You'll see, because Dukes is one of the original guys I was watching as well. Awesome base jumper from Australia doing all the crazy boy shit. And you'd see him base jump and be doing just the most amazing, crazy stuff, wingsuit, all that. And then you don't see him do anything for a while.
Right.
And he's one of those guys who I grew up and I met him at the bridge. Funny enough, I was there doing some of my first base jumps off the bridge, and he shows up and I'm just like shaking in my boots, like, oh my God, it's fucking Dukes. That's fucking Dukes right there. And we do some jumps together and everything's cool. And he's like, yeah, I'm just chilling writing my book. And then I don't see him for like years and years. And then he pops back. And he says the same thing, it's like living on that razor's edge. You see all your friends die, and then and it's just friend after friend. It kind of kills it.
Yeah,
it's like
no doubt.
next. leave, everyone thinking about me or my mom or my loved one, and it makes you second guess all that stuff.
Sure.
Big
Well,
time.
and in that sport, you don't have a whole lot of room for second guessing anything. I mean, you've got to be 100% sure that you can do everything you think you can do times 10. I actually talked to a pretty high-profile base jumper a couple of years back, and was doing an interview for the magazine, and I asked him if there was a line he wouldn't cross, and he said, "I don't know, and it makes me nervous that it doesn't make me nervous." And I'm like,
Exactly.
and I had to scratch my head and go, okay, yeah, no, I feel you. It would make me nervous if that kind of shit didn't scare the piss out of me. So yeah, I suppose that's a good time to kind of take a step back.
I was just gonna say, yeah, and with the base jumping, I didn't get nervous. And there was a time when I was in Switzerland, and me and Micah and everything were all out there jumping, and I almost died. I forgot to get my pilot chute out of my BOC. Alexander Poli, all these famous dudes were down there on the ground. They thought they were gonna watch someone go in, and I continued to jump after that. And I mean, I was always like, it was definitely like a learning aspect that day, almost dying, like I got about 300 feet off the ground, went to go pull, and there's no, handle there. And so I'm digging in the bottom of the BOC at 200 feet off the ground, and just, PLFing into the ground out there in Switzerland. Just thought I was dead for sure. And to get up and walk away from that, and then go back and do base jumps and not even, care. Like I obviously always check my handle now.
Yeah, no shit.
But I mean, it scares me that it doesn't scare me. And so now, like, I kind of segued to climbing, and that does scare me for sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely get I want to dig into your head in the climbing, because I agree with you. I've been a long time skydiver, and I was a climber for a few years, taught by another jumper as well, and nothing scares me more deeply and for a longer period of time than a sketchy climb. Fuck me. When you realize that the only way down is up is pretty freaky. So, but back to base jumping real quick. So your first base jump, where was that at?
My first base jump was in Silverton and Tinna. It was a legal base jump. And me and a buddy climbed up it around 500 feet, and he PCA'd me. He pilot chute assist me off of this thing in the middle of the night. It's the scariest thing I ever did. First time I ever told myself, "Am I really this bored?
Yeah,
Like, what am I doing?"
that I mean, I think there's a lot of people that don't base jump or don't skydive that have to be wondering, how bad are these people's lives that they're going and doing this shit? And I mean, it's a pretty valid question if you don't understand the mentality. That's some pretty intense shit. I mean, and to go back to your near death experience with the low pull, man, that story is infamous in base jumping. I've heard that many times.
Dude.
There were quite a few people that were watching that jump.
Oh, dude.
Do you look back on that jump now and get the cold shivers?
I don't. I'm just, I remember it clear as day. I remember everything that happened, the order that it happened in. And I remember reaching for my handle, reaching for my handle, it not being there. First thing in my head, fuck Micah, fuck you. And then, obviously remembering him and I having the conversation at the exit point, knowing exactly where my handle is, reaching for it, ripping, hoping I don't die.
Sure. Now, for those that have not heard the story, what was the conversation that happened at the exit point?
So me and my, brother in arms, Micah, rest in peace, we had just done a jump off of a famous place called Via Ferrata in Switzerland, and Micah had to pull high above a talus. I jumped off after him, cleared the talus, cleared this cliff we had to fly past, and landed, and was, we continued to we started to have a conversation like, "Oh my God, that was close. You're so lucky." He said, he meant to do it. We packed up, went up for our last jump off a place called High Ultimate. And this is a spot where you have to run, and the mountain doesn't, curve in. It's not overhanging. It's underhanging. So you got to run, jump, and continue to, with that forward speed, clear a cliff. We were all, a little bit scared. We were with Australian friends. And up there on the cliffside, Micah sees that I'm getting ready to put on my rig, and I haven't checked my handle to deploy my parachute. it's kind of like hidden and tucked away to where I can't get it. He proceeds to tell me, "You better check your shit, bro. You're not you're not ready to go." And I look him in the eyes and I go, "Look, I'm Checky McCheckster. All right, I always check my handles." And me and him start bantering back and forth, and I'm telling him, like, whatever, bro. Just because you almost died doesn't mean I'm gonna die. And I, tell him, "I'll go first. Come on, bro." I look at the other Australian guy. I was like, "You ready to go? I'll do the count. Ready, steady, spaghetti, mucho bass."
Oh no.
Didn't have a handle ready, thinking I'm hot shit, and just tracking. Luckily, I had a snivel earlier in that trip, so I was aiming to pull high already. And I think that's the only reason that my life was saved, is that I had already had something that had me kind of thinking, even though I hadn't checked my handle, I was worried about pulling high. Went to go pull, had that extra second or so, whatever it was, and was able to deploy the parachute.
Wow, man, fucking hell. I just talked to Mike and Matt from Squirrel Suits, and they said something that they're actually the first base jumpers that I've heard say it. They're like, base jumpers don't like to admit this, but there absolutely is a good amount of luck in our sport. And anybody that doesn't say that luck plays a part is foolish. And they're right. That's just some blind fucking luck that you had planned to pull a little bit higher, that you managed to get that thing out at the last second, that Micah's words were probably ringing in your ears as you're digging for that.
Oh my God, dude.
I bet he
and
didn't let you live that down, did he?
He did not. No one really has ever let me live that down. I bumped into someone a month ago out in Hawaii, Carson Klein, and he was like, "I was on the cliff." He and Alvarez were training for China, and they were all on the ground. Carlos, Pedro, and all those guys. Yeah, it was. I'll never forget it.
Fucking hell, man. Fucking hell. Well, hey, I mean, you got the story, and you managed to walk away from that one, luckily enough. Now, I want to talk about another base jump as well, because on a previous podcast, I had young Mr. Jarrett Martin on. And he and I talked about his base jumping experiences, and you figure prominently in one of the two pictures of him that I saw before he and I had ever met that fucking blew me away. And in the order that I saw them was him having just stepped off or jumped off of the cliff with his wheelchair sitting behind on the cliff. And then the next picture I saw was him in your arms, backwards, smiling at the camera. Fucking epic shot. And the funny thing is, I didn't know it then. When I saw the picture, I didn't realize he was paraplegic. You look like you were working really hard, and he has the most serene, calm, relaxed look on his face, like, "Yep, see ya." What? All right. So, and even he said it in the interview. He's like, at one point I had to think, do these fucking guys know I'm in a wheelchair? Right? So what was going on? You guys, how did you guys get up there? How did you decide you're going to pick Jarrett up out of his chair and run and jump off of this cliff?
Well, I mean, it all started first with Jared. I mean, that guy's an inspiration. If you don't know his story, check him out. Jared Martin, you know what I mean? He's the man, the real deal. And it was planned to be his first terminal base jump since his accident. He was a young skydiver, really accomplished already at a super young age, had a horrific accident out in Hawaii, became a paraplegic and didn't stop. Kept skydiving, kept learning rigging and stuff like that, and still had a yearning for base jumping. So he had done a base jump, and the Norwegian heli boogie out in what do you call it? Chirag was going on, to where they're sending helicopters up for 3 days out of the year, and he wanted to go. Really awesome guy, Nasser Al Niadi, heard about it, from Skydive Dubai, and those guys said, "Hey, let's send him out there. We want to pay for his trip." He had already paid for the trip himself. He was already going to do it himself. They heard about it, wanted to help him out, and paid for me to go along with him so I could help, chaperone him and make sure everything went good. And I mean, that's where it all started, was with Jared and those guys. Yeah.
It's, it's funny because non-base jumper, non-skydivers would think that taking a paraplegic in a wheelchair up on top of a cliff and jumping off has got to be the most irresponsible, crazy, stupidest thing they could possibly think of. Whereas you and I and anybody that knows the sport thinks it's fucking amazing. Absolutely wonderful. But Were there doubts? Was anybody, I mean, because the way that Jarrett tells the story, y'all just went up and started just hucking it.
I mean, honestly, we did. We using our I mean, we had some really awesome base jumpers out there. The whole crew for the Chirag event, and the Heli Boogie are all like super experienced guys. And I mean, but for the most part, we just said, hey, this is our experience. We got all this skydive and we got a bunch of base jumping experience and stuff. And we got Jarrett, and he wants to go off the cliffs. Let's just make it happen. Let's do whatever it takes. And I mean, that's what happened. Everyone pulled together. I went and did a jump, kind of scoped the area out, got a feeling for it. Next day we started hitting it hard and everyone just pitched in, getting Jarrett across. Cause I mean, the helicopter's dropping you off like almost 20, 30 minutes, a normal walk from the side of the cliff where you need to jump. And then, you stack on top of that, we got Jared and we got to get him across. We got to get all the gear across, and it's not walking across a flat surface. There's chasms that go for hundreds and hundreds of feet, where if you drop in those things, you're gone. And so it was definitely a physical on taking and stuff, but everyone pulled together. Yeah, it was just amazing.
Well, and like I told him, the photo that I saw of him doing the jump with the wheelchair still sitting on the cliff, and I believe Max took that picture, and then the one of you two going off. Those are extremely inspiring pictures. I don't care who you are, you can't not look at those pictures and go, whoa, that's some serious spirit right there. And I get it. I mean, I know Jarrett and I know you. You guys are both fucking epic, and want to go do these big things. But to somebody that doesn't know you guys, it's even more, holy shit, what kind of drive does it take to do that? So now you do all the base jumping, and that was your main focus for a long time. But you became an extremely accomplished skydiver, and you were on a team that was kind of breaking ground all over the place for a while.
Yeah, Team Maktoum, out at Skydive Dubai. We were, I just got so lucky enough to even be put in that situation. I only had 100 jumps and got out there, and the Prince saw my cage fighting videos from Hawaii and just really took a liking to me, took me under his wing, and allowed me to receive the training and all of us, the logistical stuff to really, break that ground in skydiving and take a bunch of stuff that was only being done in the tunnel to the air, to the sky.
Well, and you guys definitely did too. I mean, I've the videos and stuff of the flying that Maktoum was doing was just absolutely insane. And of course, that's led down some really crazy roads for all the people that were in that. I mean, the Wittenbergs being a big example of that. I mean, that must have been really cool too. Just having that experience with such a great group of people had to be just super fun.
It was super fun. But I think one of the biggest lessons that it taught me is that the grass is almost always greener on the other side. I think that was a big lesson for me because unlike everyone else that was in that experience, a lot of them already had like a couple years in skydiving and had already gone through some of the, skydiving is not easy. And to get somewhere in skydiving is just not easy. And like you were saying earlier with the base jumping and the luck, I think I was definitely one of the luckier people to just pop on the scene in Skydive Dubai with 100 jumps, and then within 2 years to be able to join that team was definitely amazing. But then, like, as you say, like, it really makes you like also kind of like, oh, what's next?
Oh, it would have to. I mean, well, but you ended up at the top of the pyramid so damn quick. Do you think that was kind of a bit of a burnout for you?
Yeah, I would say for sure. And then also, like, I wasn't a good person either. I was drinking a bunch back then and stuff. Yeah, I think it was definitely a burnout for me, personally. But like you say, it led to a lot of other awesome stuff for me as well, for a lot of other people, I think with anything, it's all about the lesson. You can get down on stuff, but it's as long as you're like thinking about it as a lesson, like how can I turn this into an improvement for my life, so I can move forward.
Sure.
I think that's the
well, and so you take all these lessons and you've gone through hardcore MMA stuff. You 2 years of that and walk away from it in the blink of an eye because a couple of cute chicks drag you out of an airplane. Then you become a base jumper in the thick of things with the people that you were watching on DVDs not too much earlier before and doing these epic jumps. You go through the whole skydiving realm, but now you find yourself up on the rock. So now how did that happen?
Well, I got a little bit burnt out when I was, doing the mock tomb thing and stuff like that. Was kind of searching for something that was going to be next. I really started to lean towards base jumping and moved back to the United States. Ended up in Sebastian, Florida. Funny enough, one of the flattest areas in America, and was going to be pursuing wingsuiting and base jumping. Was going to start a school and stuff, and that was the after school, fun thing for everyone at the drop zone was to either slackline or head down to the local gym, to the climbing gym.
Cool.
And that's, I just said, oh, I'm going to try this out. Showed up first day there, bought 3-month, membership, got the shoes, got the chalk bag, got the harness, and said, all right, let's give it a try.
Sure. So do you think, because the way that you tell every story is you pretty much dive in headfirst with everything you try, would you describe yourself as having a bit of an addictive personality?
I think that is probably one of the only ways to describe me, honestly, is to an incredibly addictive personality.
But it sounds to me like, I mean, you've already said you've had your bouts of addiction with alcohol and recreational stuff as well. But it sounds to me like you can have these addictions for the really cool things as well, and the ones that aren't so destructive. And rock climbing most certainly is super healthy. I mean, my God, you must be in incredible shape now if you're doing the kind of climbing I think you're doing.
Well, I mean, I just recently moved out to Hawaii and was got back into some more skydiving work. So I definitely got a little bit, as we would say, climber fat. But right now I'm currently in Austin, Texas, training at a gym every day, trying to do like around 400 feet of crack climbing and mixed climbing added on to that, getting ready for some big climbs. So yeah, I mean, definitely healthy.
Nice.
Healthy sport.
Well, I was going to ask, have you got some specific climbing goals in mind?
My biggest goal right now is to climb Castleton Desert Tower out in Moab, Utah.
Okay.
I definitely would love to get on some El Cap and get into the meadow and see that place, because in climbing history and in climbing in general, it's like the holy grail of climbing. But I've also been really sparked to get out into Patagonia area as well. I mean, the more mountaineering, like heavy hardcore stuff definitely attracts me.
So you're thinking more alpine type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to mix the alpine and the base jumping, together to get up to forge some new paths up some mountains that, haven't been even explored yet, up like in Canada or something like that. I think would be really fun.
Sure. Well, who was it I saw combined base jumping and climbing in Yosemite? I think it was Dean Potter was free soloing something and made it about halfway up and then peeled off the rock. But of course he had his base rig on. So I think he was intentionally climbing a lot harder than he would have had he not had that. At least I hope.
Yeah. Free basing is what he called it.
Free basing. That's it's pretty fucking crazy. Have you seen the Oscar winning solo climb?
Free solo.
Free solo. Yeah, man. What'd you think of that?
Oh, dude, one of the first, I wouldn't say the first, but definitely got my palms sweating on some of those things.
Right?
I think you could never have climbed in your life, and it would be definitely, a crazy movie to watch and get you scared. But being a climber makes it even more scarier.
Oh, it has to.
Fuck.
Well, one of the craziest parts about watching that whole thing wasn't watching his climb, and you're right, my palms are sweating as I'm watching it, and I'd already seen the pictures of him picking up his Oscar, so I know this fucking guy's not dead. He's gonna make it, and I'm still freaking out, but my reaction was even more so to his friends that were filming, especially the one guy on the ground that couldn't even watch as he was trying to go through that really fucking thin area. And yeah, and you're watching him just melt down because he knows what his buddy's doing. Fuck me, so intense.
Oh, and thinking about it's getting.
Oh yeah, it takes me back to a climb that I did years and years and years ago with a skydiver, base jumper, rock climber, a guy that taught me how to climb out in Vegas by the name of Kevin Love. And Kevin and I would climb a lot of the stuff out in Red Rock in Vegas, but it was always just pre-bolted sport routes. So, one pitch and you're back down. And the only time I'd ever done any trad climbing was with him as well. And it was on a route called Olive Oil on the other side of the valley. And we're about, 2 pitches in, and all of a sudden he's got the guidebook out of his little pack. And I'm looking at him, And he's like, no, we're okay. And I'm like, what do you mean we're okay? What the fuck? And he's like, well, I'm not really sure we're still on the route. What?
Shit.
And that's when that whole the only way down is up thing came into play. And I'm like, oh, are you fucking kidding me? And I was, at best a 5'10" climber steadily. And I'm looking up at this face going, this could easily get way past me. Luckily, we were still on the route, but fuck me, talk about scary. I'm sure you've had a few experiences like that by now.
Yeah, I mean, that's so funny. I'm laughing at that right now because that's like almost all of my climbing experience. Every time I go outdoor, I'm busting out the guidebook or trying to pull up, something from the internet I've copy pasted, and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, like those are my stories even trying to get to the climb. Like, oh, dude, going over some sketchy terrain, just trying to get to the climb.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, my stories definitely start with the Castleton. It was my biggest attempt at climbing. And it was also the worst because, we got shut down. I mean, I don't know if you say the worst, but yeah, we got halfway up the climb. I was about 40 feet up without any protection, trying to protect this big chimney off with a cam that was too small. And I had the wrong shoes. It was super cold. We were out of the sun for hours and hours and hours. And I was just like, I don't think I can do this. I don't want to, fall and land on my friends and hurt them. And then we're all dangling from the ledge. So I told my buddy, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. You want to give it a try? And he's like, maybe it's in your head and I'll give it a try. He got up there, same spot as me, about 30, 40 feet above without any protection, and he couldn't find a way to protect it. So he conceded as well. And then we're trying to down climb it and our rope isn't touching the ground. So we gotta somehow, anchor in and reset anchors, and we're dangling. There's another party coming up at us and we're bantering back and forth / getting owned, just like donking and yeah, got completely shut down.
Wow.
I was up there for like hours and nothing, went away with nothing.
Well,
so I think
you made the right call, though. I mean, fuck, you're 40 feet up above your last protection, man. That's almost a full rope length whipper.
I know, dude. I was scared. And you're only going to hit a ledge where your belay partner's at and then just dangle and then go 40 feet past that.
I mean, that's the rope is basically just something to tangle you up before you hit the ground.
Yeah, snap your wrist or your ankle or something like that.
I'd say you made the right decision. Although, yeah, that's a long way above your last piece of protection for sure.
I mean, you live to fight another day, and it's definitely motivated me. Like right now, it's the only thing that's on my mind. I was out there and I got my, I went to another spot called Indian Creek and was able to on-site my first trad crack. And had Micah's ashes with me, got to the top of the climb and was able to spread some and stuff. And just an amazing experience with it, climbing, testing everything, your mental, your physical strength, combining it in such a beautiful dance up the rock, it's just.
Oh, absolutely.
So
well, and it's the only other sport personally that I've ever done that's had me as in the moment as skydiving has. Because, skydiving, same thing. As soon as you let go of the airplane, nothing exists but what's going on in that skydive. But even after a while, with all the jumps you do over all the years, sometimes stuff will start to creep in. But when it comes to climbing, there's nothing but you, the rock, the rope, and the protection.
Yeah.
That's it, man. It's intense, and I don't think people understand just how super intense it is, which is, again, why I could sit down and watch that documentary and almost shit my pants watching someone else climbing on a TV. It's crazy. Well, so what comes next? You got some big climbs, but you're still jumping pretty actively, yeah?
Yep, I'm still jumping pretty actively. I still have my base rig. I still have a wingsuit, and all that type of stuff. So that's definitely on the mind as well. I want to get out to Europe possibly in the next couple months. But right now, as far as climbing, I'm on a 30-day trip. There's a gym I'm going to, Crux, here in Austin. They got amazing facilities there. They got a big crack they just set up with a bunch of, different width variations and stuff. So I'm just training, getting ready for Castleton. And I got another buddy that is got a bunch of stuff we're going to do up in Colorado. And I don't know. I mean, basically living like a dirtbag is what's next for me.
Yeah, but what an epic fucking way to live. I mean, it sounds to me like you've been on this ride in one variation or another for a very, very long time. I mean, how old were you when you started the MMA stuff?
I was in my 20s, early 20s,
so like
24.
So in your teens, you were in all kinds of trouble.
Yep, I was in trouble basically.
All kinds of trouble in your teens. You get out of that and you go to MMA and through all this. Well, how old are you now?
Now I'll be 37 in April, so I'm 36 right now.
36 years old, but I bet you still feel 18, don't you?
Yeah, somewhat.
Just
I mean,
a few more aches and pains, I'm guessing.
a few more aches and pains for sure, but I would definitely say for my lifestyle, the life that I've lived so far, I've rode the ambulance a bunch of times in Dubai and out there learning, extreme canopy piloting and stuff like that, and so I would say for what I've done and what I've gotten hurt, I'm definitely doing good. I feel young. I feel ready to go. I feel, like a goat on the side of a mountain.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I mean, I'm older than you, and God knows I've got my fair share of aches and pains, but I still feel like a teenager most days. I still want to do all the same stupid shit that I've always done. I just take it a little bit slower. I don't dive in quite as fast. That's all. So, how about the rest of the life? Significant other these days, or are you running solo?
Running solo as of recently, and plan to kind of hopefully try to keep it that way. I don't know. Just I get so caught up in because I think with our lifestyle, I have like these inner battles of like, am I being too selfish? Like when I do meet someone special and, I do meet just on this journey so many awesome people, like I connect with everyone, and then you meet someone special and you try to give yourself, but then you're not focusing on the climbing, you're not focusing on that thing that kind of makes you who you are, so I keep getting caught up in this kind of like dual lifestyle of like, who am I?
Well, yeah, because it's tough to figure out which one you want, because everybody likes to cuddle up on the couch and watch a shitty movie, but not everybody likes to go, do some badass climb or crazy base jump or skydive their asses off, and a lot of people can't cope with the dedication that people can put into it.
Yeah, and like what it takes, like to go do those badass climbs, you're shitting in a bag, you're camping out in Moab, it's freezing, you can't feel your toes, you're eating, ramen or whatever it is so you can afford the trip, because no one's sponsoring you to do any of this stuff. You know what I mean? Like I would say like 90% of climbers and base jumpers out there, even the ones who are big time sponsored, are getting like a free suit. You still got to pay for all your airfare. Your food is so expensive especially when you're traveling like somewhere like Europe, and so you just, yeah, like you said, it's like it's hard for someone to understand that who wants to worry about owning a house.
Well,
stuff like
and I think even if you've got somebody that understands the passion, they're not necessarily going to want to share in all that misery that goes along with the payoff that they may or may not get. That was another part of Alex's free solo that blew me away, was his girlfriend's willingness to stand by him, and there are not that many women out there like that.
No. There isn't, and that's he's done a few of these climbs, that he has a few movies out, and he's had like 2 different girlfriends in the previous movies.
Right.
So it was something that I noticed and I thought was very interesting, because in the past movies, they've kind of, shown, oh, this is Honnold, he's living in a van and he has a girlfriend,
Right.
But this movie, and the fact that he got injured twice with her.
Right.
Before the climb, which was like super crazy. A lot of his friends mentioned it, and now he's going for this climb and he's involved in a relationship like that kind of blew my mind, because I'm thinking of, putting myself in his shoes, like, well, I don't even know if I could do that, put someone through that stress. One of my, a couple of my recent relationships stressed out constantly, even about just my friends doing crazy stuff, let alone me doing crazy stuff, talking about doing crazy stuff.
Yeah, I've had blowback like that as well, and I've always lived a very mellow life when it comes to extreme sports. I mean, a non-skydiver thinks I'm batshit crazy, but as far as the skydiving and base jumping community goes, I'm a very mellow guy. I'm super, super safe, but to a wuffo, somebody that's never made a jump and never done anything extreme, they can't cope with it. And then, of course, they have to hear the stories. As you've been in the sport as long as I have, you're going to lose your fair share of friends, and unfortunately, I certainly have, and they only want to hear those stories so many times. And they don't, as soon as you're in a bad mood and they can't quite figure out why, and you have to tell them you lost another friend, well, then they're just, staring at you going, you need to stop this shit. And It's the same for you as it is for me. If I stop jumping now, if I stop doing anything extreme, my entire life is tied up in friendships that were formed in this sport. So I'm going to continue to lose friends my entire life, whether I jump or not. So why would I, give that up? And they have a very difficult time understanding that. There's very few people that can handle it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I fully agree with you.
Yeah.
So it's a weird place to be put, at the end of the day, because, like we're just riders living on a sailboat on the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
We're just like, we're doing our thing, and this is what makes us happy. And then you take that away and then you're not happy, but you also want to engage in these relationships and stuff. And you're left with a hard boat to pull.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, so what do you think, what is it that drives you, or can you even nail it down that drives you to do these things? Is there a quality that you think you have that makes you lean towards this stuff, or is it just indefinable?
I mean, it's just who I am, honestly. I grew up in the Austin, Texas area. I was labeled learning disabled at a very young age, ADHD, ADD. I nowadays we're learning that our education system could be vastly improved. Not just with wages for teachers and stuff, but curriculum. And I kind of was a self-proclaimed blowback of that. I didn't fit in at the normal, teaching regiment and stuff like that. And that caused me to be a rebel, and I rebelled against school and everything else. I didn't go to college. I didn't want to do all that type of stuff. I didn't think that, it didn't have any value in my eyes at all. And it's only these things, that I really value, that I cherish, like these moments that, like you're saying, the community, these moments you have on the cliff side, making these lifelong, friends before you jump and stuff like that. And in those moments, like, I can't think of anything else that would be as good. I could never work in an office.
No, God, no. Well, I couldn't see you in an office. There's no fucking way.
I would go crazy. I would go crazy. And then people would look at me like I'm some lunatic.
Right. Which they do anyway, but at least you're a lunatic having fun.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. I've never done anything to dispel the myth that I and my kind are a little crazy, just because fuck you. Think whatever you want.
Yeah.
So even doing all these things, though, and now you've been in the sport a long time, and because you've pushed the limits so hard, you've lost more than your fair share of friends as well. Has that ever slowed you down? Have you ever thought, something, that's enough?
Man, I remember. Well, I mean, for me, unfortunately, I've lost friends even before skydiving. I lost a really close friend of mine in high school. She graduated a year early, went down to A&M, which is a really prestigious school. She got out a year early so she could go to school during the summertime, came to visit me for her birthday, was driving back to school and she was in a brand new Camaro sitting low, so she couldn't see over the guardrail, pulled out, over like an overpass to get onto a highway, and just got sideswiped 70 miles an hour, killed her instantly. And then I had another best friend in Hawaii. We were swimming at this jump rock in Waimea Bay. He jumped off. Another guy was leaving the rock at the same time, landed on him as he was coming out of the water. And that was my best friend for 4 years. And he's in a coma for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then they had to pull the plug, and he died in my arms. And I'm like singing rap songs to him and stuff like that. And so I and then I get into skydiving. My AFF instructor, Ash, he died 2 days after I left. Micah, Polly, you start to name people, and it's like, I don't know, you kind of get numb. But I think with Micah, it hit home so hard with me that, I haven't really done a base jump since.
Yeah, well, I think he hit home with a lot of fucking people. Everybody remembers certain events. And I, along with literally hundreds and hundreds of people, know exactly where I was and what was going on when I found out.
Yeah.
It's well, and 10 times for you, because Micah was a friend of mine, but you guys were a band of brothers. So that's something. You're not the first person that's had to take a step back because of that. And I suppose maybe that's one of the shining lights to something like that, is that a few people that I really care about are evaluating a little bit more the safety, which for me, a non-base jumper, makes me happy that I've got other friends that are taking a step back.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that as well. Like I said, I still have my wingsuit. I still have my base, because at the end of the day, Michael was my brother. He, and he was someone who I will always hold dear and cherish for the rest of my life. And I know he wouldn't want me to stop jumping, because of it. So, I mean, like, I definitely think there's some jumps for me coming up pretty soon, but it has just made me take a step back and wonder, like, what are the benefits and weighing the positives and the negatives in it. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of selfish, like it's definitely a selfish. I mean, like, you jump off the cliff, you land, and it's your experience. Like, sometimes you can use it to inspire people, and you can, and it's definitely a crazy and amazing human feat to do, to be able to do that. To fly so close to the ground at those speeds down beautiful mountains all over the world. Like, just so amazing. But fuck, man, you die, you fucking die.
Yeah.
And then there's no reserve handle after that.
No. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. And again, I look at the sport of base jumping definitely as an outsider. We're akin to it because as I've been skydiving for as long as I have, but base jumping is that whole next level for sure. And the price is really high. There's no way around it. I mean, I'm glad to see that you kind of took a step back, and of course, because of Micah, you're going to check your handles every time.
Oh, for sure. Because of Micah, there's a lot of things I'm going to continue to do.
That's fucking funny.
But yeah.
Oh wow.
But that's why I love climbing as well, because it gives me that same type of fear. And it puts me in that same spot, but there's not. I mean, you still can break legs and you can still die and everything up there, but I just feel a little bit more in my hands. Like a little bit more. I don't know.
Right. Well, what the fuck is it about fear that is so appealing?
Yeah, and I mean, like, maybe it's just bred into some of us. Like like what is the purpose these days for a British bulldog? I own one and I have no idea. I can't figure out why this breed was made, you know what I mean? But I love him and he's alive and he's doing his thing. But dude, what's the purpose of it?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Maybe some of us are left over, bred to be warriors, or bred to, to be this way, to not have this fear, to enjoy the fear, something to feed off of it. I don't know. It's definitely a vibration, just like a love and, type of vibration. So
yeah,
who knows?
I read somewhere a long time ago something along the lines of the people that seem to be drawn to extreme sports just tend to receive the normal world in a much more subdued way, and they need something like skydiving or rock climbing to kind of turn that volume up and feel alive. And I don't know that that's necessarily true for everybody. It is sometimes for me and sometimes not, but I definitely know that after a good day of climbing or skydiving, it turns the volume down on all the bullshit, which is the big attraction for me. So if you have a scary day jumping or a freaky day climbing, man, that asshole that just cut you off in traffic doesn't bother me a bit.
No, and I sleep better.
Right?
I sleep better, man.
Yeah.
I sleep when I've, almost died on a cliff side, or I've pushed myself to that limit, that night, I'm sleeping good. There's nothing that's stopping me from sleeping.
Oh, yeah.
I'm go to sleep.
Well, and at a certain point with all of that stuff, at some point you had to get to that level where most people would melt down, and you had to consciously decide, nope, I need to get through this. I can freak out later. And then, of course, yeah, you're going to sleep like a fucking baby. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, before we sign off, is there anywhere people can catch up with you? Is there a drop zone you call home now that they should come out if they want to make some fun jumps with Ellis or want to go do some climbing? Where should they go?
Well, man, I'm working out in Skydive Hawaii right now, and we're mainly just doing tandems and stuff like that. I could be, found in Lake Tahoe soon, or Skydive Chicago. Those are definitely places that I go to do fun jumps or hang out. I don't know, man. What's next for me is, it looks like I'll be hanging out maybe in Vegas. If people want to get a hold of me, they can find me on Instagram though, Danho Hawaii. And I'm also just recently back on Facebook, so you can probably find Ellis on there as well.
Awesome. So they need to check you out on Instagram and Facebook to kind of keep track of you. What are you going to be doing out in Vegas?
Well, Vegas or like Sedona, Arizona just seems so central to Grand Canyon, Moab, California, just everything, Red Rocks. Vegas is just such a good climbing destination and has so much fun, and not necessarily Vegas, but if not Vegas, Sedona, nice. Arizona, just for the climbing, be out in the desert. I'm really fond of the desert.
Have you climbed Red Rock before out in Vegas?
No, I haven't.
Oh, dude.
I've been there. I really want to get out there. I'm so jonesing.
Oh man, the very first climb I ever fucking did was an outdoor climb. Kevin Love took me on it, put me on this route called Vagabond in what's called Black Corridor, and doesn't bother to tell me what I'm on. Just he climbs it, teaches me how to belay him. So I've never belayed anybody before. So he's crazy because he's letting some fucking knob that's never belayed anybody before put him up the wall. So up the wall he goes, I lower him back down, he puts me up the wall, and I get back down, and he's laughing at me when I get back down to the ground, and I'm like, what? And he's all, you didn't fall. I'm like, well, no, shit was scary. I wasn't going to fucking let go. He's all, dude, that was like a 510D. It's the very, yeah, it was either a C or a D, the first fucking route he ever put me on. I'd never climbed anything before, and he's like, I've never seen anybody climb. Like, I was terrified. I was not going to let go of that fucking wall. No, you're going to love it. Dude, there's like, I don't know, 1,000 pre-bolted sport routes. Just some absolutely fucking epic climbing in Las Vegas. You're going to love it.
I cannot wait, dude. I'm jonesing.
Well, cool. Well, look, I'm going to tell everybody once again they need to find you on Instagram. What's your Instagram one more time?
Danho, Danho, Hawaii.
Danho, Hawaii. Okay, so they can find you there and kind of keep track, and back on Facebook as well. And then the big climbs coming up, all the training you're doing and everything, man. I wish you all the best of luck. I hope they're just as epic as you hope they are.
Thank you so much, brother.
Man, fantastic talking to you again. It was so good to catch up. Don't be such a stranger. We'll talk again soon.
Sounds good, brother. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, brother. Take care.
You too, man.
Well, there you have it. Another episode of the Lunatic Fringe podcast, brought to you as always by, well, wait, not as always, actually. Brought to you now by Gyro. Formerly known as NZ Aerosports, you'll head to gyro.com for their next level line of canopies. By Pussfoot, the Extreme Sports Collective. Head over to pussfoot.com to check it out. By Summit Parachute Systems, check out summitparachutesystems.com to talk to Jarrett Martin and the gang about kick-ass pilot rigs, rigging courses, and more. By Flyaway Indoor Skydiving, go to flyawaytn.com and check out all the cutting-edge stuff to come. By Pure Spectrum CBD, head to purespectrumcbd.com to check out their wide range of CBD products. And as for us, head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com to listen to any of the hundreds of episodes currently available, hit the link for our YouTube channel, pick up your copy of the Lunatic Fringe book or The Accidental Stripper, and get a sneak peek at upcoming guests. Once again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.